Hi, Jillian here. Today we're going to talk about ways to elevate your pasta game with a simple buttered pasta that only has really 3 ingredients. So my son is a really picky eater and eats buttered pasta a lot, so you may as well make it the best you can, right? So let's start with the water and some tips and techniques for making sure that you get the best out of your pasta. So we've got the pasta water at a rolling boil. You want it to be really hot, and the amount of water that you need depends on the amount of pasta that you're cooking. You definitely want to make sure you have plenty of water. And then when you season it, you want it to taste like the sea. So this is the only chance you really get to season the pasta itself. So test your salt, adding it after it's come to a boil, because otherwise the salt will make the water boil faster. We'll just give it a test after it's dissolved. Use a little bit more. All right, that should be good. Then go ahead and add the pasta. I'm using a short pasta because I think it's less messy when the kids eat it. And we're just gonna give this a little stir just to make sure the pasta's not sticking together. You don't need to add olive oil to your water. And then we're just gonna make it come back up to a rolling boil and set our timer for the low end of the package directions. This was 11 to 13 minutes, so I'm gonna test it at 10 minutes and see where we're at. So while the pasta is cooking, I went ahead and grated up some Parmesan cheese. Again, there's only 3 ingredients in this, so I like to use the best I can find. Parmigiano Reggiano is a lot more delicious than the pre-grated things that you can find in the cheese section of your grocery store. But if you don't have time to grate the cheese, totally get it. And then for butter, I really like to use a French butter because, again, the French are just really good at making butter, and with so few ingredients, the ingredients that you do use will make a difference in how everything comes together at the end. So here's a technique for turning garlic into a paste, which is really versatile. You can use it for salad dressings, or like we're using today as part of the flavoring for the olive oil that we're going to toss our broccoli and cauliflower in. So we want to cut off the ends of the garlic. And then smash it with the back of our knife. Then we're just going to mince it to get it started. Making sure that you get it off the back of the knife because it likes to stick there. And then after we get it fairly well minced, we're going to add some salt, and that's going to help break down the garlic so that we can turn it into a paste. I'm just adding a little bit of salt here. And then I'm going to mince it with the salt and then start to crush it with the back of my knife, dragging it and mashing it, which takes a little bit of time, but is really going to make for tiny little bits of garlic that are not going to stand out in big pieces in taste when you put it into your recipes. And when you use your garlic, you want to make sure that it's nice and fresh. Find a bulb that's really tight at the top with all of the cloves of garlic really close together, no soft spots, and no green in the inside. All right, look, it's turning into a nice paste now. All right, and there you have it. This also is great just added to olive oil, and you can use it as a dip for bread. Because you're breaking down the garlic so much, all that garlic flavor is going to get into the oil very quickly. All right. There you have it, garlic paste. So just before the pasta is done cooking, we're going to take out some of the starchy pasta water. And this is going to make the water like a binder for the sauce that we'll create once we drain the pasta. So I'm just gonna reserve a little bit. You may not use it all. Then let's taste the pasta to see if it's ready. We don't want it to be soft, but we also don't want it to stick in between our teeth. And we don't want to burn ourselves. That's perfect. And go on the side of a little under rather than a little over, because the pasta is going to cook a little bit longer once we add it back into the pan with the butter and the starchy water. Strain our pasta. Then we're going to put it right back into the pan. Bring our pan back to the stove. And then turn the heat on. So we're going to bring it to about a medium heat and then add in some of this water. I'll start with about half of what I took out. And the butter. Let's see how much we end up needing. And then we're just going to stir this over the heat. And let it come to a boil. So once the pan gets hot enough again and the butter and the water, the starchy water start to boil together, then it's going to form a really lovely sauce. So you can see that the water and the butter are really coming together to coat the pasta and make a nice butter sauce. You could even add in some of that garlic paste at this point to give it some extra flavor if your kids like a garlicky pasta, or if you do. All right, so now all of the remaining water has been soaked up by the pasta and we're ready to plate it. All right, so let's pour our buttery pasta in here. Top it with a little Parmesan cheese. There you go, simple, but better than just melting the butter right on top of the pasta at the end. I know this is a really simple recipe and you've probably made buttered pasta a million times, but I just want to encourage you to meet yourself where you're at in the kitchen. Don't feel like you have to overcomplicate things or do things that require beyond the amount of time that you have. So hopefully you enjoyed these tips and techniques for making the best buttered pasta your kids will ever have. And if you liked it, then please follow me and stick around for more.